I am a little bit like, I like doing things that other people say you can't do.
Yeah.
Because, and not from an illegal perspective, but from a perspective of why can't we do it? Why can't crypto be this new, or blockchain be this kind of new technology that can revolutionize the world?
Welcome to the Alphapreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Rayhan Aleem, founder of Taxstar and Alpha Pro Partners. Join me on each episode as we talk to inspiring Dubai-based entrepreneurs who share their stories, challenges, and secrets on building world-class businesses. I'm excited to have Joe David on the show today. Joe is a founder of Nephos Group, which offers accounting, wealth management, and corporate services, but his big focus is on crypto. He's a passionate advocate of cryptocurrency and spends a lot of time educating entrepreneurs and business owners on how to use it effectively. Joe also hosts the Nephology Podcast, where he talks about finance, crypto, and business strategies with like-minded professionals. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me in your podcast. So I really enjoyed it. This is a kind of different setting, but it's in the same studio.
Yeah.
I want to get into it. I want to talk about your journey as an entrepreneur. You also run an accounting firm, but your accounting firm's more cool because you're into crypto.
Yeah.
I'm a traditional accounting firm or traditional bookkeeper. And you've obviously moved to Dubai, so I want to talk about your journey to Dubai as well. But you obviously transitioned from an employee to a entrepreneur, and we kind of focus a lot on that on this podcast. You want to tell us about why you decided to set up your own business? I know you moved into other things like wealth management as well, but tell us about that journey and what was the things that you learned and some of the, if you're happy to share some of the mistakes that you made.
Yeah, 100%. And again, thanks for having me. I think, for me as well, the key to all these stories is people say I was born an entrepreneur. From 3 years old, I was selling sweets. The chances of that are pretty slim, right? I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur. Didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. To be honest, when I was 18, I didn't know what I wanted. The only thing I wanted right at that moment was to lie on the sofa and play on a PlayStation. That's what I was doing at 18. And I think a lot of these stories of I was born an entrepreneur, a lot of the time, how true is that? So yeah, look, for me, I didn't enjoy school. I wasn't stupid at all, but I didn't apply myself. So I scraped by. I got basic grades and I went to A-levels, didn't enjoy it, didn't do it properly. So failed that, left school, no university. And then I was kind of like, what do I do here? Where does my life go? And it was just that my auntie had a job going at a place she worked, and my dad was kind of like, get off the sofa and get some money coming in. So I went and worked for this bathroom manufacturer, and I didn't have any accounting experience. In fact, the job wasn't even accounting. It was just kind of office, kind of T-boy, really, if for want of a better term. So
my first job was photocopier boy.
So
don't worry.
We've all been there.
Judgment.
We've all been there. So and it was very much like just help out around the office, and it just happened that it was a very small company. It was a big group, but a small UK arm of this bigger group. Like 8 of us in the office, and it was just that the financial controller was like, look, you kind of clearly got a keen eye for numbers, and you keep kind of like doing the invoice processing, because I was doing a little bit of that. Do you want to kind of take it further? And that's where it kind of developed. Did AAT, did 𝗥𝘆𝗵, moved jobs up until within the kind of accounting finance industry, but in industry, not in a practice at all. So working in manufacturing businesses and technology businesses, etc. And then it was kind of like, I say I was never born an entrepreneur. I think I grew into one, if that makes sense. And I feel like in my mid kind of 20s, I was kind of like, there's something more about this. I actually enjoy what I do. I actually, in a weird way, enjoy going to work. And did I enjoy the job specifically? Maybe not, but I knew that I enjoyed work, and I knew that I enjoyed trying to achieve something at that point. So that's when I just thought, I've got to do this for myself, because I'm never going to get full kind of satisfaction out of working for somebody else and putting money in somebody else's pocket. So yeah, so I kind of left the job and started the business. I can't remember when it was now, 11 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was very much, at the time people were saying, I was still quite young. I mean, I'm 37 now. So, 26, still quite young
Yeah.
to go, do you know what, I'm just going to quit my job and, start this business. I didn't have kids at the time, but I had a mortgage. So it was quite a big decision, but I just felt that I had more to offer to the world than just sitting in an office behind a desk doing the accounts for a company.
But I'll also like to remind you that it's not like you were setting up in London or Birmingham or Manchester, right? You were setting up in one of the kind of medium-sized towns in England.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it's like the equivalent of setting up in 𝗵𝘆𝗵𝗆𝗵,
Yeah,
for example, right?
yeah.
So how did you find that experience being in a small community, but being able to grow your business as well?
I think you get both sides of that, right? If you're in London, there's a huge amount of competition.
Yeah.
Huge firms there that you've got to compete with. It's very difficult to really kind of get in the communities that you need to get into. It's probably similar here. If you're in Dubai, trying to find the right community to get into. I mean, I know I've moved here. I'm sure you do as well. Whereas if you went to 𝗵𝘆𝗆𝗵 or ras Al-Khaimah or somewhere like that, you probably find those communities are few and far between and therefore easier to get into. So that was very helpful in that sense, that the communities there was less of them. I could build some relationships. A lot of people, 10 years ago, it really was the start of the move from like traditional accounting into kind of cloud technology accounting. We were one of the earlier Xero adopters in the UK, Dext, which was Receipt Bank, etc. So that was another opportunity where I was going to these events, financial advisors, even sometimes other accounting firms, all these lawyers, all these professionals, and they were going, actually, we haven't really kind of heard this story before because we've only heard the traditional story. So actually they had a lot of newer clients, tech clients, younger clients that were actually like, this is the way I want to do it, not this way, if that makes sense.
So traditional, just to be clear, traditional is basically pen and paper accounting.
Yeah.
Using the kind of Windows 95 type.
Yeah, desktop-based software, not cloud-based software. You can only
files.
You can only access it in the office.
Yeah.
You can't, the only way we could access, because obviously we had some clients that were still on desktop software. Like when I was working in industry, we had an IT team. One of the jobs of the person in the IT team was to download data from Sage into Excel because it couldn't do it. It was Sage 1000, I think, at the time. And it couldn't get the data directly from Sage into Excel. So he would be building. It was his job, basically. It was to build these queries out of Sage to get it into Excel so we could manipulate the data and understand what was going on, etc. So it was like that, like you say, that type of, when we then started saying to entrepreneurs, well, actually, you can see it anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
If you're even a small business, you're a plumber, you're on a job, you can raise an invoice on your phone on Xero there and then. Like now, to most accountants now, that's like, well, of course you can. But back then, I say back then, it was only 10 years ago, but it wasn't that way. Do you know what I mean? So for us to come in with that fresh approach, there was a lot of the younger generation that then went, actually, we'd much rather this approach than the kind of the suited and booted, old school kind of accountant.
Yeah. And so you obviously helped businesses digitize. You helped, you was able to grow your business off the back of that. Did you find that when you first started your business, did you already have your networks in place, or did you have to work to build those networks? And
yeah, I mean, you got again, I worked in an industry. It was a boring. They actually had an office in Dubai, funnily enough. When I left, there was a conversation around me moving rather than leaving. They were like, "Why don't you go to Dubai and go to our Dubai office?" And at the time, I think because my mum lived here before I moved here. I think my mum lived here at the time, so it was kind of questioned, but I had no idea that I was actually then going to kind of 10 years later be here myself. But it was very much, it was in a small village. Basically, the business, the manufacturing business was the village. They all worked there. It was a real close community. You drive there, you go to the office, you do your day's work, you leave. So you don't really build a network. You don't really have opportunities to build outside of, because then you go home, you do your home thing, and then you go back to work the next day. It wasn't like I was an accountant in practice, or a lawyer, or a financial advisor that was constantly networking as part of my job.
Yeah.
So it was turn up at breakfast meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold, raining UK, and trying to build those businesses and those connections. But for me, I'm massively introvert. Like, I hate just going up to people and talking to them. I'm really comfortable in these sorts of situations, but like I hate if you said to me, you know, there's 50 people downstairs going network, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. That's not so
I'm
that,
the same too.
yeah. So that's probably an accountant thing, right? So that was a real challenge at first. You have to, but I do think it gives you then, you know, the more you do stuff you don't want to do,
Yeah.
the more you become more resilient. You start to actually go, well, do you know what? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to go and speak to those people. I did it. I came away with it with some business cards and some nice conversations. I now feel good. Like, now what's the next challenge? Let's go. Do you know what I mean? So I do, as much as I hated it, it definitely helped a lot.
And obviously, you know, you've started your journey, you know, revolutionizing your local area and in the UK by offering cloud. You moved to Dubai and you now do crypto accounting, right? Which you're probably the first accounting firm to do that in Dubai, by the way, or the UAE, maybe even the GCC.
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
I've been there for quite some time and I haven't seen anyone else do that. Now, you obviously was doing that in your UK firm, crypto accounting, and I think that's an amazing, you know, the riches are in the niches, right? So I think that's a really good area to focus on. How did you go about, you know, looking into crypto as like one of your specialisms as a service offering, and you know, accountants are not usually good at, you know, you tell accountants to do a process, that's it, they'll do the process, they won't think outside the box.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to think outside the box because then you get into like creative accounting, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You obviously were able to build a company, able to build a division that works in crypto. Tell us about that journey, and is that something that you enjoyed doing? I know you were in we both were in a conference like a year ago, and you was on a panel, and you mentioned that all your staff have a crypto account as well.
Yeah.
So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so it was definitely, you know, an interesting path to start on. And, you know, I mentioned at the start that I wasn't born an entrepreneur, and I mean that. And I didn't start the business either really as this massive entrepreneur, but then a couple of kind of years, 2-3 years into it, I started to go, do you know what? I am ambitious here. I want to make something here. How can I make something big? And, you know, COVID came along, you know, in 2020, which obviously also changed the game for a lot of accountants. And in my head, I was like, there's got to be an industry here that we can go into that will break. Like, you know, you could be an expert in hospitality. COVID comes along, your business is shot tomorrow. You know, you can be an expert in all these different areas, and someone could come along. What area can I find that I might even enjoy being part of that really kind of, I think could break that, you know, that barrier, if you like, of going to the next level. So crypto was that. So in 2018, it was initially, we got our first crypto client, and it was just pure. We had a client, if she listened to it, she would know who she was, but you know, she was a locum vet in London. She went around, we paid us a modest fee just to do the accounts and prep for her, whatnot. And her partner at the time was in a crypto exchange, and he was leaving and was setting up on his own. So she said, look, you should speak to my accountant. He's modern, tech focused, all those sorts of things. She just said to me, he's got a tech company. Probably didn't want to scare me off. Went to meet him in London, and yeah, it was crypto. And at the time, I knew what Bitcoin was. I just about knew what Ethereum was. This was 2018, so Ethereum had only been around for kind of a year, 18 months. And it was very much like, what do we do here? If we turn this away, what are we saying to ourselves as individuals? But if we take it on, are we really able to deliver on this work? And so I was just very honest with them, and I just went, look, I want to do this, but we're not an expert. And they went, nobody would even open the door to us and have a conversation. So the fact you're even willing to have this conversation means that you're somebody we want to work with. And that's where it started. So we learned very much on the job. But, you know, 2018, 2019, before COVID, it was very much like, this is just another one of our X amount of clients.
Yeah.
There was no, like at that time, there was no kind of plan to build this huge division. There was no, kind of thought process on it. And then when COVID came, you know, Jim's shirt, you know, all these different things. I was like, you couldn't go out and go coffee or go to the pub or whatever it may be. Like, I was actually like, well, I've got time on my hands. So I just started looking into crypto. So I started watching YouTube videos, started reading articles, all those sorts of things, and just started going, there is something about this thing that I kind of quite like. And I am a little bit anti-authoritarian. So I am a little bit like, I like doing things that other people say you can't do.
Yeah.
Because, and not from an illegal perspective, but from a perspective of why can't we do it? Why can't crypto be this new, or blockchain be this kind of new technology that can revolutionize the world? So for me, that was then an opportunity to go, well, this kind of fits with my mantra of let's try and do something different. It fits with my mantra of a niche area that nobody else is in, and therefore we could grow quite significantly. Let's give it a go. So yeah, just spent a significant amount of time researching it. And then the core as well, without getting too nitty gritty, was going, okay, now I understand the concepts. Now I need to invest in it. Now, annoyingly at the time, the crypto was going up, which wasn't annoying if you were in it. Annoyingly for me was I only had like a few $100s here and there, because I was an accountant that was trying to understand the accounting, not trying to make money. So I kind of, invested in a few of these things just to then be able to go, I've invested in it. Now what accounting transactions will I need to post in order to deliver the accounts for that investment, if you know what I mean? And when you've done it yourself, you know what you've invested in, you know why you did it, you know the kind of transactions you did in order to generate it. You can then start to go, well, actually, I know the steps I took. I know the accounting kind of rules and stuff. If I can kind of marry those two together, surely I can come to a place where we've got, accounting rules for crypto. So that's kind of how it started. And there was no ACCA guidance. There was no even real HMRC guidance at the time.
Yeah.
It was very much a case of, we do what we can, we apply the rules as best we can, and we not hope for the best, but we kind of we're erring on the side of, look, there's no rules out there, so what can we do apart from go for our best? So that's kind of how it started. Was very much a kind of random interaction through to me really kind of getting into it and then becoming a little bit obsessed with the industry, and then going, do you know what? There's a business here. Let's launch a business. And
with crypto, what are your thoughts? We don't need to have a idiot's guide to crypto, but crypto's come a long way now.
Yeah.
And obviously you have quite a number of clients who are within the Web 3.0 crypto space. What are your kind of views of the future of crypto? I recently set up a wallet. Only reason why is because I went to an event, and there was a Stanford professor speaking there, and he was saying, 2% of your wealth should be in something you don't normally invest in, and you just put it in there and you just leave it.
Okay, nice, yeah.
So I put some money in crypto, not 2% of my wealth, but probably less.
Yeah.
And I've just left it there, and I'm not even looking at it.
Yeah.
What's your view of the crypto market? How do you see things going? You've got some really good insights in terms of your clients. We don't need to go into specifics, but
no. And look, we're in a unique position, right? Because we're not some marketing agency that all they see is crypto influencers trying to pump the latest coin, or we're not a project that has been building this blockchain project for so long that they're kind of blinkered by blockchain or crypto or whatever. We're very much a provider to like the whole industry. So we see retail investors in the UK more than here, but retail investors investing probably more than 2% of their net worth. I tell the story. We had a young guy. He was an Amazon kind of like shelf stacker, or not shelf stacker, like a picker, if you like, right? Up in a northern UK town, right? So not very well off town. Earning kind of £15,000 a year. So he then invested in crypto and made $250,000.
Wow.
And for someone like that, that's life changing.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for them to do something else. It might be that they want to carry on in Amazon, but they can buy a property with it, or it might be that they go, do you know what? I've now got a few months where I can go, I don't want to work in Amazon.
You could buy a street for that much.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, you probably could. But like, he had these opportunities now, and you see that. And then you see these like huge corporates that are like, investing in crypto on a big scale. So it's such a unique like industry where you really do get like a corporate. It's like a David and Goliath. You can get, David competing with Goliath in terms of some of the gains and the profits that these people are making. So so we've got this unique experience that we've got the retail investors, and then we've also got the businesses, the infrastructure projects, we've got some stablecoin issuers on our books. So for me, I see a huge future for blockchain, and crypto is one use case, if you like, of blockchain technology. So there's things such as I mentioned on one video I did that AI and blockchain coming together, smart contracts, which basically means that, for example, an insurance claim, if someone drives into you, you take a picture of the claim, upload it. AI is able to determine like who, your car, their car, determine who was at fault effectively. And I'm really dumbing it down here. Determine who is at fault, and the smart contract can automatically pay out. No insurance company needed to do checks, and you don't have to take your car here to get it checked by this. You can literally just get AI to check it and smart contracts to pay it out. So blockchain technology, I think, has huge use cases. Crypto itself, very speculatory, right? So you're very much a case of you're buying it, hoping that it goes up in value.
Yeah.
There are occasions where you might say, I really believe in that project, I'm going to buy their token, a little bit like I might buy shares in a company. But in the main, you're buying, and I'm the same, you're buying a crypto token in order to go, it was, £50 today, it's or dollars, dirhams, whatever. Today is 100, 150, 200 in 2 weeks time. So for me, like I say, there's huge opportunity here to change the way the financial system works, decentralized finance.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer borrowing and lending, all on the blockchain. Even where you've got assets. So if you tokenize an asset, for example, a laptop, and you say, I want to loan Joe the laptop, we've got a smart contract system that could say that if I don't give you the laptop back, the money that I've put down as collateral, whatever I've put down as collateral, is automatically paid out to me. There's no way for you to stop it. Do you know what I mean? So there's all these different bits and pieces that I think where use cases can really like revolutionize the way we're doing things at the moment. We've got a client that's looking to, and one of our podcast episodes is going to be with this guy when he's ready to launch. But he's tokenizing the private debt market. So if you're a business at the moment and you want to raise money in the private markets, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
It's quite slow. If you go to a bank, they're probably going to say no.
If you go to a loan shark, they'll take your kneecap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a very fragmented market where you've got high street banks and, like you say, dodgy loan sharks that will take your kneecaps out. And it's very expensive. It's very slow. It just doesn't work for businesses. So he's tokenizing that opportunity. Yep. So he's saying, look, we're going to have a marketplace of lenders, if you like, or what have you. We're going to have a marketplace of businesses, and we're going to match the two together. Cheaper, quicker. Like, he can make more money in his own business doing it that way, and cut the cost by like 60% to the end business, right? So if you can cut your business, your customers' cost by 60% and still make more money than the traditional way, like, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of these use cases are going to start coming around, the real world opportunities of utilizing this technology. And then the other side is, obviously this is not going to go out today, but for anyone that has looked at the industry, Trump launched a meme coin at the weekend, and it went from basically nothing to $50-60 billion in market capitalization.
Wow.
Yeah, it became bigger than some US corporations in less than kind of 48 hours. Today it's still still pretty high as well. And that kind of gives you like the sense of like hype and what's the word, kind of like market, like not market sentiment, but like public perception, speculation, where everyone's gone, oh my god, Donald Trump has released a meme coin, we have to buy that because he's about to be the president of the US. Right? And like, in what world are we now living in that the president or incoming president of the US is setting up a meme coin? Like, it's an insane, position, and people were made millionaires from that over the weekend. Unfortunately, not me. I'd have been ringing you this morning. Sorry, man, I'm not coming in. It's game over for me now. But yeah, like, that's the world, and yet then you've got this huge kind of proper kind of real world use case over here. It's just, it transcends so much.
So Joe, you've moved to Dubai. When you came back about 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah, July 23.
Yeah, July 23. And obviously it's a big move for you. You know, you've born and raised in the UK, moved yourself to Dubai. You've, you know, set up an office out here. You've moved your family as well. So I had Ayman here in our, I think, episode number 2 or 3, and we spoke about his
similar time as well.
Similar time as well. Yeah, he made the move as well. I made the move back in 2016.
Okay.
And I did something similar as well. Moved, you know, I actually set up the main business here and moved the family as well.
Okay.
Things were very different back then to how it is right now. But what made you decide to come to Dubai? What kind of tips can you give to other fellow entrepreneurs who are making the move as well? Is Dubai what you expected it to be, or, you know, were you able to? How were you able to navigate your business's decision on coming here and growing it?
Yeah, for sure. So, look, for me, the main reason was I didn't want to be in the UK. You know, the UK for me is just because someone said to me probably a couple months ago now, but they said basically the UK was a 5-star hotel that hasn't been worked on for God knows how many years, has been left to be run down. The people in charge of and that's just, we're not talking any particular political party here, just in general, the people in charge of the hotel don't really know what they're doing. They've got no real ambition in the grand scheme of things to fix it. They're riddled with debt, the hotel. So actually, what can it do? You know, how much can it invest in reality? And the only way out of this situation in reality for them right now is to raise the price of the product, despite the fact the product being massively inferior to what it was before. And also as a hotel, thinking to yourself, well, actually, we are still a 5-star hotel here. We should be able to charge these prices. Yeah, why not? And actually, in reality, everyone else is looking at that going, you're at 3-star at best, maybe even a 2. And I thought that was a really good analogy of like where the UK kind of has got to. And, you know, the UK, you know, same for you, you know, the UK is my home country. I don't want to put it down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to tell people what it is in real life, right? You've got to talk about what is in front of you. And for me, I didn't see huge prospects for me. I didn't see huge prospects for my children. So I wanted to move somewhere and just get some. I didn't go to uni, like I said earlier, right? So I didn't really get that. I lived in Cheltenham, which is the small kind of town, my whole life. So I was like, I really want an opportunity to go somewhere different. And because my mum lived here for 8 years, we'd been here quite a lot.
Yeah.
So and when I decided to move, it was like, I want to live somewhere where I can grow a business. I don't want to just go and sit on the beach somewhere, or, you know, work from you know, a small little coffee shop in a little French village that there's nothing else going on around me, right? As lovely as that is, that wasn't where
they
I
have
was
lovely
at.
bakery though.
They do, yeah. It was tempting. It was tempting. So I wanted to go somewhere where there was a, you know, and I joke about it, that I say to people that it was easier for me to move my family halfway around the world than to move them to, say, London. Yeah. Because, you know, they didn't want to go to London. They had no interest in that
London
whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm from London, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
So I think you probably have a better lifestyle in Cheltenham than you'd have in London.
Yeah, but you don't, from a business perspective, you don't have the same opportunities. You know, going back to the earlier point around what was it like starting in Cheltenham, you know, this is the thing. When you've been in Cheltenham then for, say, 7 years in business or whatever, you kind of start to saturate a little bit the opportunities. Yeah. They're not quite as, you know, there's not as many of them around, and they're not quite as good. So then you start to go, well, I need to spend more time in London. Okay, so then you end up getting the train there every day, driving there every day, whatever it may be. So actually it was like, well, why don't we move to a different city and somewhere that, you know, you get amazing weather, you know, business opportunities, and you do get every opportunity you want. You can spend your weekend at the beach in the city, you know, at a club, like a beach club, or you could spend it in the desert where there's nothing else around you. Yeah. You know, there aren't many places in the world in the size of what the UAE and Dubai is that you can get all those different things in one place. Yeah. So, so for me, it was about opportunity, me, children, business. You know, interestingly with the wife, like, she already knew obviously about Dubai because she'd been here a lot, loved it as a holiday destination, is very much a home person, you know, only child, and her, you know, with her parents, so she's very close to them. So it's quite a big decision. And, you know,
they're still back home, her parents.
Yeah. And they're not really, like, her dad's not really well enough to travel, and her mum probably wouldn't leave her dad for that long, if you know what I mean. So they've never been out, which is a shame. Maybe one day, but but she was kind of my barometer, right? Because when we first came, she was like, "We'll do it for a year." Like, she wanted the opportunity as well, right?
Yeah.
She wanted to go try something different. We'll do it for a year. And in my head, I'm like, a year is not enough to do
Build
anything.
a business.
Yeah, you gotta do more than that. But I was during that year thinking, what if she wants to go back? Then what do? How do I manage the fact that I don't want to go back?
Yeah.
I want to build my business here.
Yeah.
How do I then manage that? Am I going to have to say, well, you guys go back and I'll come back, I don't know, once every 6-8 weeks, or, you know, and then it becomes this whole cost and blah, 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 blah. After 6 months, she was like, I'm never going back to the UK ever again.
So you made a great move.
Yeah. And now she'd, if she was listening, she'd very much be like, yeah, this is the place that, like, we're looking at buying a property to live in now. And, like, you know, this is the place we want to be.
You can buy property with crypto now, by the way.
You can, you can. So for me, it was like, I want an opportunity. I want to go somewhere where I think there's huge growth potential. And, you know, I love this part of the world.
Yeah.
I love the vision they have. I love the plan that they want to kind of do from a crypto perspective. Like, absolutely incredible. You know, the opportunities that businesses, entrepreneurs, you know, individuals get here. So that was like the kind of, if you like, the reason. In terms of like my top tip, do it sooner. Because I delayed, not necessarily Dubai, but, you know, I wish that I had made the move to Dubai probably sort of, you know, when you did, or, you know, maybe a little bit after that, because, you know, I feel like there's opportunities that if you're sat there thinking, maybe, like, don't miss the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you know, take it. Obviously, there's personal circumstances and all those sorts of things. But if you get the opportunity to live somewhere like this, I would say jump at it immediately.
And in terms of you building your business and you setting up operations, what kind of tactical tips can you give to? There may be plenty of entrepreneurs from you know, from the UK or wherever else, and they want to move. They may still think it's a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to diss the UK, right? The UK's home.
I am.
But what kind of advice would you give those types of entrepreneurs who, you know, it's quite a daunting thing to move your family, set up a business, come out here. It's a completely different environment in many ways.
Yeah.
But there's lots of opportunities when, you know, you're used to a certain environment. So what kind of tips would you give based on how you've, you know, made your move?
Yeah, so I think, you know, for me, the most important thing from a perspective of it being successful moving here was that the wife and the kids were happy, right? And so when we moved out here, so my wife's a teacher. She was at a private school in Cheltenham, you know, really good school for like 10 years. And then she left a couple of years before we came here. And I say she didn't really do much. That's obviously unfair. She did quite a lot. But, you know, in terms of work, like there wasn't, you know, and then she did a bit of social media for us. And we moved out here and she didn't have a job. And she was like, well, I won't work because I don't want to, and, you know, blah, 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 which was fine. Like,
live the Dubai lifestyle.
Exactly, yeah. Which was fine. Like, we had, you know, she worked with me. So, like, you know, we would go to work together most days. Then she'd be home for the kids and, like, all those sorts of things. But then after a while, you start to realize that actually I'm building a network. I'm building connections. I'm, you know, making friends, if you like, in business. And she's kind of stuck at home with the kids and doesn't really have that same interaction. So one thing I would say is like they've got to be really happy. And so two sides to that. She got a job in teaching. And for her now, she's got her own friends. She's got her own, you know, group of people that she, like, this Friday she's going out, and, you know, I'll have the kids, you know, and she'll be able to go out, let her hair down, do whatever she wants, type thing, right? So that's the first thing. You've got to make sure that, and I don't just mean that in a, like, you know, happy wife, happy life type thing. I genuinely mean that in a
happy life, happy wife.
Yeah, whichever way.
I believe that.
But like, you've got to think about it. It can't be a selfish decision. It's got to be right.
Yeah.
And then the kids is the second piece, right? If you've got children, you know, finding a school that they like and that you feel is right for them. You know, we found a British school that we really liked, really close to home. So I think that's also really important, is making sure that you find the right kind of education and stuff for your children, because they've got to be also happy, right? You think that they just come along on the ride and do what they're told, which in the main they do. But if they're not happy, what are you actually doing to them? What if it's not what in their life, what is going to help them? Like, actually, you then being selfish by not giving them what they should have to, right? So they were the two most important factors. So, if you're in the UK and you've got either of those parties in your life, whether that's wife, husband, or children, you've got to think about how can I place them in the best possible way. The other side to that then is, as a business, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So obviously tax is a huge piece. The UK, in the main, it is a fairly high tax jurisdiction. It's not massive in some instances. When you look at other, personal tax is higher, I think, than most, but business tax isn't actually too bad
compared to Europe and America.
Yeah, if you can get in, some of the lower rates, it's not too bad. But tax is always going to be a defining factor in a lot of people's decisions. If I go here, can I save some money on tax, which you could potentially do?
Yeah.
And then the other piece is how are you able to run your business? So, I actually spoke to an entrepreneur who ran a kind of manufacturing company. He was like, well, at least once a week, I like doing a sweep of the factory. I like going to talk to people. Yeah. I like understanding the business, what's going on, blah, 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 blah. Someone told me once it was called like management by walking around, where you just walk around, you just chat to people. How you getting on? Like what's, and then as a manager or as a business owner, you get to really see what's going on.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you live in Dubai and the factory's in the UK, right?
Yeah.
So then you got to think, well, can I run my business? Well, yeah, I could run most of it, but I couldn't run this bit. And this bit is what sets us apart from the rest, right? And if you're like me, where you had a service business where you don't have that, for me, it was all about getting the right people at the top to be able to manage the business in my absence, as it were. And they all know that I'm available whenever they need me.
Yeah.
I'm on the end of a Teams call. I'm on the end of a phone call. And we had a really big situation happen about 18 months ago in the business. And I said to Julie, who heads up our operations, say it's like right now, right? So, 11 a.m. or whatever on a Monday, our time. I was like, by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, I could be with you. Like, that's how close yet. Like, we're here now today. You're panicking, go, oh my God, you're halfway around the world. Actually, I'm probably a few hours away if I jump on a plane and get to you very quickly, right? So you're far, but you're never too far. So, having those good people in the business, making sure that the business can run and tick along was like essential.
Yeah.
And then it is, the cliche, having good people, having not just the management, but then underneath that, having staff that really care, that want to deliver good stuff.
Yeah.
And we've been really lucky in that sense that we've got some really good people that really want to do well. And they all kind of, I think, aspire to the opportunity of what they can do. Maybe they can move out here and work for the entity out here. Maybe they don't want to do that, but it's an opportunity there, right? So, I've kind of talked around the point a little bit there, but I think you get the picture, right? It's
about 100%.
Family and then business.
Yeah, I think what some of the things that you mentioned is, as an entrepreneur, as an individual, we're doing a lot of things that normal people don't do, right? And we're constantly working late. Sometimes we're taking emergency calls. We're relaxing for a week, but then we go into all of the things that we need to do. We have to manage cash flow. We've got to pay salaries at the end of the month. We have to make sure the business is collecting the fees from the clients. And so as an entrepreneur, as you rightly said, you need to have a good base. You need to make sure that you internally have stability. So, you touched upon the family, and that's very important as well. Business wise, you touched upon another point, and that is the fact that as a business, doesn't matter if you move around the world or if you have 10 businesses or if you have one business and you want to work, 1 hour per day. I think what you mentioned, you didn't mention culture, but it sounds like you got really good culture. But you got to have the right people in the right place, which you mentioned, and you got to have a good management team to manage the business. I also believe, adding to that, no business is perfect. If you strive for perfection, you're never going to get it. So you have to be comfortable with chaos to a certain extent. And you have to be comfortable with the 20% unknowns. And so long as the 80% is all running smoothly, the 20% will kind of look after itself. It will fix on its own. So I think you've given a great appraisal on how to, if you're an existing business owner from the UK, for example, and you want to make the move to Dubai, be it tax reasons, be it opportunity, be it you want to have a better lifestyle, you do need to make sure you do have these fundamentals in place before you make the move. Like, for example, if you're going through a divorce, for example, you probably want to sort that out, right? Or if you have a business in the UK and you're having internal strife, then you probably want to fix it before you come here. So yeah, no, great insights.
Although I would say, there's 2 points to add to that. So I would say, we had an issue with a senior staff member when I left, and there was a conversation before I left around, do I stick around for a bit, because this could go south, and it did go south. I moved out in the July. By the September, it had gone very south, and the person exited the business. That and again, I had those conversations with Julie. She's been a kind of right hand person to me for nearly 5.5 years probably now. Do I need to come back? Do I need to come and fix this? And she was like, if whenever there's a fire, you come with the hose. How are we ever going to know how to put it out ourselves? We've got to be able to run this bit. If you want this business to be an international business that has people all over the world, we've got to be able to put those fires out without you running back every time and fixing.
And that's great leadership advice.
100%. But for me, it was about, I didn't want to go back, obviously. Part of it for me was making sure that she was aware that I was there, and if she needed me, I would jump on a plane and come back. But the other side to that was for me, it was so empowering to see that she was able to go, no, like, not that we don't need you, because it wasn't that at all. Like, absolutely, they would have probably loved it if I'd come back and done what I needed to do. But they were like, no, we need to show you as well. You show us leadership. We now need to show it to you. And I think that's super important. And where we are today as a business compared to then is amazing. And I didn't go, I obviously have been back a couple of times, but I didn't go back and fix it. I probably did a few bits in the background to help fix it. But I didn't just jump back in and fix it. So I think that was super important. And I think so that was kind of on the don't do it if there's chaos. Actually, sometimes you can. If you think it's the right thing for the business, you've got to go ahead with it. I think the other thing is it opens up your business to huge opportunity, not just in Dubai, but we now have people in South Africa. We have some people in India. We have someone in Spain. We have people all around the UK. So for us as a business, if we were just a Cheltenham-centric office, you only hire people from Cheltenham. No offense to Cheltenham, but you only get a certain caliber of people potentially. Like it'd be needle in a haystack to get the top of the top, because you're in a small town, small talent pool. You then start to go, well, okay, we'll take all people in England. Oh, now our talent pool's bigger. Then you say, well, we can take anyone anywhere in the world. All of a sudden, that talent pool, that opportunity is huge. So I think that's the other piece is if you're looking at your business and going, not sure, tax maybe, or blah, 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 blah. The opportunity your business has to hire people from anywhere in the world. Insane when you move outside of the kind of bubble, if you like, of the UK.
Yeah, no, great advice. So Joe, we touched upon your company being the pioneers of supporting businesses with crypto from an accounting and finance point of view. As you know, as I know, there are plenty of crypto skeptics out there. I guess the crypto bros don't help.
Absolutely.
A lot of it is, as you mentioned, a lot of people who do invest in crypto, it is very speculative at the moment. People just do it just to see if they can make a bit of money. If you take a step back, you've got things like the mining part where it takes up a lot of energy and, we're trying to be carbon neutral, but the mining element makes you go the other way. And then you've got blockchain, lots of doubts and negativity on blockchain. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Then you've got, the images that you have on a blockchain that you can then sell.
Okay. NFTs.
That's it, NFTs. So you have NFTs as well. Conceptually, it's a great idea, especially for artists. But then you have bad players kind of taking over that space and trying to do scams. And then you've got obviously a lot of scammers and hackers, and they use crypto as a means to
Yeah.
blackmail you. And I've just literally created a really bad
Yeah.
hole for you to dig out of crypto,
of
right?
Course. Yeah.
But if there's anyone who could do that, that's you, right? So a lot of negativity in crypto. I'm a believer in it. I think it's the future. I think there's definitely a place in the world for crypto and blockchain, NFTs as well. How have you been able to take this and being able to provide services around it, but at the same time providing great services, which you obviously do, being ethical, which your firm is ethical, and you've gone through the fact that you've got a great culture within your organization, which means they will look after your clients as well. So do you want to tell us more about that that kind of journey and how you've been able to kind of dispel a lot of these negative vibes?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no scams in crypto. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't people out there that are trying to steal your money, and things like that. They're absolutely, there are in the traditional finance world as well, right? Crypto has a lot of bad press, but a lot of that is just press, if you know what I mean. A lot of it is, let's take a story here. And I've got an example, right? So FTX was an exchange that 2019, I think it was 2022, sorry, I think it was 2022 went down, right? Long story short, Sam Bankman-Fried, who ran the exchange, was effectively taking customer deposits, leveraging that. He had a hedge fund as well. Yeah. Leveraging those funds, and effectively got to a point where there was a bank run, and that meant that he didn't have enough money to pay back the investors or the retail users, because he had positions out that he couldn't necessarily close. Perpetual cycle ends up in everything going to zero, right? Not a Ponzi scheme specifically, but kind of that sort of thing. And you look at someone like Bernie Madoff, right? Traditional finance, complete Ponzi. Had an office below his office where he ran a Ponzi, and had an office above that where he ran a legit business, right? And he siphoned money between the two. Which one got the most press in reality? Maybe in the US, in Wall Street, maybe Madoff did because of it being in Wall Street. But in the mainstream press, I only really heard about FTX. Yeah. A lot of people I know have never heard of Bernie Madoff, for example. Or they have now because there was a Netflix documentary about it, not because they knew about it at the time. Yeah. And that's kind of my point, right? Is that crypto will always get bad press. Crypto is something that is easy to target. It's easy to say crypto is bad because FTX went down, which has nothing to do with crypto, by the way. It was just to do with somebody that did wrong, which could have happened in any walk of life. There are accountants out there that do wrong. There are lawyers out there that do wrong, right? Doesn't mean the whole of the accounting profession is full of scammers. So I think that's the first thing, is look at it from a perspective of, is the industry itself a problem, or are certain people within that industry a problem? How do we fix that? So that's the first piece. So for me, looking past that and actually getting deeper, peeling off those layers, and then getting deeper and going, actually, when I've peeled away, I can see, these guys are scammers, and how do I avoid that? Okay, great. I now know how to avoid that. But these guys are really good people. And for us, the kind of journey, if you like, at the start was, we want to make this space more mature. We believe in this space. We believe there's opportunities. We've peeled off those bad layers, and we found the good underneath that. How do we help that good come to the top? Yeah. And as a professional services business, accounting business, we've got the best opportunity to help make those businesses successful. Most people don't start a business to scam other people, or like even Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't think he set out on day one to scam every single person. I think he got himself into a hole that he couldn't get out of. Yeah. Am I saying an accountant could have fixed that? I'm not. No. I'm saying that if he had good people around him that maybe advised him better early on, maybe it could have stopped. Some people absolutely set out from day one to be a scammer. There's nothing you can do about that. But if we can help the other part, the ones that go, well, I didn't mean to scam people. I didn't mean to set up a project, raise a load of money, and then it fail. That's not what I planned. Yeah. I ran a really bad business, and I apologize for that type of thing. Or maybe we can go, well, next time, don't run a bad business. Get somebody that can help you run a good business. Yeah. And we're not the only people. There are a lot of good people out there, in terms of lawyers and advisors and all these different things that can help you build a good business. But having a good accountant and making sure the numbers are there and, all those sorts of things is super important. So that was our kind of mantra on day one. It still is our mantra today. Like, we still want to help the space mature. But from, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the space has matured like incredibly since then, right? So it's still our mantra today to help it be more mature, but I also would like to think that we've also helped it get to the more mature space that it's at today. So I think that if you're a retail investor looking to get into crypto, you need to know what you're doing. And for me, that means going on a regulated exchange, Coinbase, something like that, which is, very heavily regulated, the UK and in the US. They're listed in the US. They've got those requirements as well. And you want to buy some crypto, go on Coinbase and buy a bit of Bitcoin. Not financial advice and all that jazz, but that is your safest route. If you are somebody that likes to take a punt, then there's huge opportunity for you to make bigger multiples and opportunities, but that could go to zero, and you've got to be aware of that. So I think making sure that users are educated, so that's retail investors as well as businesses. We have a lot of businesses that say, should I add crypto to my balance sheet? And our view is we need to have a conversation with you about it. It's not a yes, you should, or no, you shouldn't. If you haven't got any money to pay wages at the end of the month, probably shouldn't be putting money in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me over the weekend, I want to buy a house, but I'm probably not going to buy one for 6 to 8 weeks. Or I'm probably not going to start, the process for 6 to 8 weeks. Should I stick it in Bitcoin for 6 to 8 weeks and see what happens? Make some money while I'm like, if you need it in 6 to 8 weeks, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then their question is, would you not think it's going to go up? Well, I do, yeah. But if I needed, like say, 200 grand in 6 to 8 weeks, I probably wouldn't be putting it in crypto because you never know what might happen. So I think some of this is around being sensible.
Yeah.
The opportunities to financial markets from crypto has become much more open, if you like. The opportunity to leverage has become much more open. I know people that do 50x leverage on trades, right?
In crypto.
Yeah, in crypto. Yeah. But if you were in traditional finance, getting 50x leverage on anything would, you're talking to top level institutional players, right? Yeah. You're not talking Joe who goes online and logs into an account on, say, Bybit or something and sets up an account and can trade leverage. It's a very, very... So that opens up to more risk. Yeah. So it's around education, supporting the business community. Most of these businesses, like I say, they aren't out to, pump and dump. They aren't out to scam people. They're here to build good businesses, right? If we can help them to educate other people, to be better, to understand more, then I think those businesses will grow even further, if that makes sense. And just on the NFT piece as well, NFTs are, transcended by digital art that was worth loads and now isn't worth very much, right? That's how the space is now painted. For me, NFTs has nothing to do with digital art. Yes, there's a huge opportunity for artists to, kind of tokenize their art and put it, their IP on the blockchain forever and all that sort of stuff. But actually, it's a utility. So if you have an NFT, for example, you might say that the only way that you can access this branch of my services is through an NFT. Yeah. So now you know who owns the access to your services. That person then doesn't need your services anymore. They can transfer that to somebody else. Yeah. There's no issue around that. It's very legitimate. You can see who they've transferred it to. Or take ticketing. I for my sins, wasn't at the time, but it is now. I had a Man United season ticket. And there was a lot of games I couldn't go to. I lived in Cheltenham. It was 3.5 hours to get there. There was a lot of games I couldn't go to. The only way for me to sell them was via these third-party sites that charged a hell of a lot of money. If you gave it to somebody else, it was a physical card. You had to trust that person would give it you back. Yeah. So if that was on the blockchain, if my season ticket was on the blockchain, I didn't know you, and you were like, I want to go, I could transfer you that one game ticket on the blockchain. Yeah. And then if something happens while you're there, like if you you abuse somebody or you attack somebody or whatever, we know exactly who it was because I've transferred it on the blockchain. There's no hiding from that. Yeah. So I think there's huge use cases for things like NFTs. The issue is they get transcended by the media, which is they were worth loads. They're pictures that are well worth nothing. Why would you bother going anywhere near it? Yeah. When actually the opportunity is actually quite big if you can find the right business use case.
Yeah, no. I mean, for me, the most basic use case is, you're an artist and you've done a picture, for example, and that digital picture, you want to put it on your phone, but then there's thousands of people out there who want that picture on their phone. How do you monetize from that? And I think, NFTs is the best way to monetize from that. Rightly so, because you spent time, that's your skill, right? So you need to be compensated for your skill.
We also had just jump in as well. We also had another business. Unfortunately, they didn't raise enough capital to continue, but it was a really good idea, I thought, where they were tokenizing watches. So let's say you've got $100,000 watch, right? And it's not something you wear; it's something you store for investment purposes, or things like whiskey. You know, people invest in whiskey that they sit on for like 20, 30 years, right? They quite a lot of the time these might sit in vaults. So, you know, they'll sit in somewhere which is locked, secured, nobody can get access to it. In order for, if I want to sell that, and you offer me 150K for that watch, in order for me to sell it, we've then got to go through this whole process of accessing the vault, getting it out, you taking it to wherever you want it to go. There's a risk in transit, all these different problems that come with it, right? Cost, all those things. If that watch was tokenized, so that 100K watch, I had a digital representation of it, if you like, and then you wanted to buy that from me, yeah, okay, you might want to inspect the watch and all those things, totally understand that. But actually, rather than physically moving it, I just transfer the ownership rights through blockchain.
Yeah.
Quicker, easier, more secure. Like, how much of a better kind of business model? So from a luxury asset perspective, can we tokenize luxury assets?
Yeah.
To make the use, the opportunity to transfer it to other people much simpler, much cheaper, much safer, all those different bits and pieces. So another kind of use case, if you like, for tokenization, which is all an NFT, really, when it's used properly, should be. So yeah, loads of opportunities.
Yeah, no, 100%. Completely agree. Do you guys get involved in like white papers as well for companies, or?
No, we don't really do anything in terms of the development of the white paper. Typically that's done by A, marketing, B, like kind of the business journey or whatever, but also then the tokenomic side, which is more an economic, you know, if we release this amount of tokens and we give this many to these people, what does that do to the supply? You know, all these different bits and pieces. So we don't really get involved in that. I read quite a few, but it's not something we do as a business.
And how do you see the regulatory landscape catching up with crypto? Obviously, in Dubai, you've now got like the DMCC Crypto Center. I'm not sure if there's any bank accounts that allow you to set up as a business. I know individually you can, you know, have an exchange and transfer the money, but there's been some change. I feel as if it's been slow change. Since you've been in Dubai, how has that transition been for you, and what kind of advice can you give to the businesses and individuals who are buying and selling
absolutely crypto? So again, you know, that's another reason for choosing Dubai as where I wanted to move to, because they are innovative, they want new technology to grow. And look, the US are now talking about it. Let's see what Trump does. Like, you know, he's talking like I was hearing from kind of Dubai, and that we want it to be a hub, and we want it, but you know, the UK said that 3 years ago and did nothing. You know, Rishi Sunak said that when he was Chancellor. Okay, maybe not as much opportunity. Then he became PM, still didn't do anything. Yeah, you know, so I mean, don't get me wrong, probably have bigger problems, but like, you know, it's all very well talking about it, delivering on it, and that's what this place does. Is they deliver.
So there hasn't been that much progress in the UK.
No. There's been a little bit over the last few months, but in reality, in the nice way, you know, we went back to that rundown five-star hotel. You know, if you're a rundown 5-star hotel that's struggling to make ends meet, the first thing you don't then do is go, let's accept crypto payments as like, you know, as a different way of doing it. You go, I've got to fix all these other things first. So look, I don't blame them for that, but it will mean that they fall behind, but that's because they've fallen behind on other stuff that they now need to focus on. You know, the UAE's got an opportunity, and this part of the world, you know, the GCC's got an opportunity to go, we don't have any of those historic problems. So why don't we now go, well, do you know what? We can be the leader, the industry leader in the space, because we don't have all that other crap to deal with. So that's what they've done. Dubai built the first ever crypto specific regulator in VARA, the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. As with all regulators, it starts very slow. It's very difficult to get licensed. It's quite expensive because, you know, they've got not many people working there and they need to deliver a lot of stuff. But there are a lot of companies now, I think maybe 30, that have been licensed specifically by VARA. If you're licensed by VARA, there are banks that will accept you because you've been licensed by VARA. I know two, I won't name them, but I know two specifically that if you have a VARA license, obviously there's other conditions as well. It's not just the VARA license, but if you have a VARA license, they will look at your application and they will then look at banking you. So I think the opportunity here is great. DMCC free zone, like you say, they announced a few weeks ago that there's going to be a crypto tower solely for crypto businesses.
You're going to get an office in there, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. That's the plan. I went to Bitcoin MENA, which was a Bitcoin event in Abu Dhabi just before Christmas, and there was I can't remember what the name of the city. It was like Phoebo City or something like that.
Yeah.
And they've got approval from the Abu Dhabi government to build what they're calling like a crypto city. So there's going to be 3 towers, I think. One's a business one, one's a residential one, one's a hotel with residential maybe as well. And the whole it's going to be like a closed economy in a way. They're going to have their own token where you buy things at the coffee shops, and like obviously we're quite a few years away from that, but what an opportunity, somewhere like El Salvador. So El Salvador, South America.
Their whole currency was
obviously they're in a part of the world where their currency is worth not a great deal anyway, right? So they rely heavily on the US dollar. The issue with relying heavily on the US dollar is you then rely heavily on the US. Yeah. You then have to kind of do what you're told, because otherwise there's issues, right? If you then say, well, actually we'll accept Bitcoin can now be a legal tender here. So El Salvador said Bitcoin is now legal tender. Now the answer to nobody. Obviously, US dollar is still big, so it's not completely like that. But in principle, they now don't answer to anybody because their currency isn't reliant on this other country. Tether, which is one of the biggest stable coins, recently said that they were going to move their operations to El Salvador.
Oh wow!
Because it's a crypto city, it's a crypto country. It's So my point is, there are other. I'm not saying that's the right solution. I'm not saying that El Salvador is the greatest place in the world and all those sorts of things. All I'm saying is, by embracing things like this, if you're a country that is outside of the norm, you're able to generate opportunities that you may not be able to generate if you just sat on the same old stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I just think it's a huge opportunity, and I think this place is, like with everything, is going 100% at it and will succeed, and I'm excited for that future and what it becomes.
Yeah, no, I'm excited as well. So you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
You talk about crypto on your podcast as well. So you want to just give us a bit of introduction about your podcast?
Yeah, so it's called Nephology. So our main business is called Nephos, and so it was kind of like a play on that. And yeah, we do try and vary it. A lot of my guests are crypto, as you can imagine, but we do try and vary it. We had a fantastic episode with yourself, on UAE and the tax kind of regime here. So we try and do kind of business, general entrepreneurial journeys, but there is a big, heavy crypto angle as well.
And tell us about your business. You obviously serve crypto businesses, but everyone else as well. So you have an office in the UK. So anyone coming from the UK, you can look after the books in the UK as well as UAE. So do you want to just give us a plug?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if we separate the two, so the non-crypto side, we do a lot of work with UK businesses and their international operations. Normally that's a smaller UK business that then wants to expand internationally, rather than a huge international already expanded business. And we help them then with all the kind of planning and stuff around that. We do a lot of personal tax planning as well, with people making good money and they maybe want to move.
So you have crypto bros as clients?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We absolutely do. And then we got the crypto side where we work with businesses globally. So, a lot of crypto businesses are set up all over the world. So we work with crypto businesses globally. So either side of the fence, if you're a non-crypto business and you want a modern, forward-thinking, international focused accounting firm, great. If you're a crypto business, there aren't many other options, to be honest. So come and have a conversation.
Well, you're a good option.
Yeah.
And how's the best way for our guests to get in contact with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a good spot for me. Yes, that's probably on our website. We've got nephosgroup.co and mineraccountants.co. But yeah, Joe David on LinkedIn.
Cool. Thank you very much for coming today.
Really
enjoyed it.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Alphapreneurs podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and a review. Your feedback is appreciated. For show notes and more, check out the link in the description and connect to me directly on LinkedIn and search for Rayhan Aleem. See you in the next episode.